A very warm good morning, my dear children. Hope you all are safe. Am I right? So, last class we discussed about different types of asexual reproduction. Hope it is clear. So, when we discussed about asexual reproduction, we already discussed that it happens mainly in lower level of organisms. Do you think is it possible in higher level of organisms like human beings? Is it possible? No. Because no, our body structure is different, our body organization is different. So, we are in need of a pair of organisms or two parents to give birth to the young one. And when we discussed about asexual reproduction, I already mentioned about some advantages also. Can you say what are the advantages of asexual reproduction? It's very easy. Second advantage is that it can create a same individual also. Whatever qualities the parent is having, it can be transferred to the individual. And it is also possible, this is very important for organisms, especially plants, that cannot reproduce by means of seeds. So these are some of the advantages of asexual reproduction. And you should understand that there are some disadvantages also. Can you tell me or can you just guess what are the disadvantages of asexual reproduction? Main disadvantage is that there is no scope for variation. Even if variation is there also, least scope for variation. Can you tell me what is meant by variation? Yes. It's a creation of differences, isn't it? Create differences in the newly formed individual. In the case of asexual reproduction, an individual is formed from a single parent. There is least scope for variation. So it is very difficult for an organism to adjust to new environmental condition. If the temperature or if the climatic condition of the environment changes, these asexual reproducing organisms, they cannot survive in such a climatic condition. That's the main disadvantage of asexual reproduction. In such a situation, and one more thing I should say that, in asexually reproducing organism, what are the defects the parent is having, it is transferred to the newly formed individual also. There is no scope for any correction. What are the qualities parent is having, it is just transferred to the newly formed individual. Similarly, the defects of the parent as such can be transferred to the newly formed individual. So in such a situation, we should say that sexual reproduction is efficient in certain organisms. So you know that in the case of sexually reproducing organisms, how many parents are involved? You all know how many parents? Two parents are involved. That means the fusing of the sperm and the ovum that result in the formation of zygote takes place in the case of sexually reproducing organism. So in the last class, as we discussed about asexual reproduction, I told you that first step in any reproduction, it is the copying of the DNA. DNA copying and the original will remain in the parent and the copy only will move towards the zygote. Here you know that DNA can be received from two parents, from the father as well as the mother. So you know that how many chromosomes are there in the human body or human cell, how many chromosomes are there? There are how many? 46. That means we could say that 2n or it is the diploid. In the 8th standard you have studied about the diploid condition. What is diploid? That means 2n. And in the case of, so what will happen if the cell is having 46 chromosomes? These 246 from father combines with 46 in mother, and how many chromosomes will be there in the child? This 46 from the sperm, then 46 from the egg or the ovum, then in the case of zygote, how many chromosomes should be there? 92. Do you think is it like that? No. In the case of zygote, the zygote is also having the same chromosome number like the parent. There is no change or it won't be 92. say how it happens. In the case of sperm, you know, all the cells in the human body, they have 46 chromosomes except the sperm and the egg. They are known as the sex cells or the sex gametes. And this sperm and egg, we can call them as what? They are haploid. All the other cells in the body is having what? Having 46 or 23 pairs of chromosome, but in the case of egg and the sperm, it has got only 23, and that condition is known as haploid condition. Sometimes this question can be asked. All the cells in our body, they have diploid or 46 chromosomes, but you know that the sex cells or the sperm and the ovum, they have only 23 chromosomes and they are known as what? Haploid. Clear? Yes. So this haploid condition helps maintaining the number of chromosomes. If the sex cells are also diploid, what will happen? The newly formed zygote will have how many chromosomes? 92 chromosomes. Just to avoid such a situation in our body, except the sperm and the egg, all the cells are having 46 chromosomes. And here they have only 23 from father and 23 from mother, and total how many? 46 chromosomes are there. In this manner, the chromosome number is maintained in the case of human beings. So you know that organisms are getting the characters, or the individual receive the characters or the chromosomes from both the parent, from the father 23, from the mother 23. So as they receive the characters or the chromosomes from both the parent, what will happen to the zygote? Is it similar to the father or is it similar to the mother? Absolutely no. This is a combination of these two because they receive the DNA. You know that as the chromosome number is reduced, same manner DNA number is also just halved. Here as the chromosome number is just half, similarly same manner what happened, you know, the chromosome number, the DNA number is also halved in the case of sperm and the egg. So they receive 23 from father and 23 from mother. It is not just the receiving of the chromosome. You know, in the chromosome we could see the DNA, and the DNA we can see the gene. So the characters are transmitted from father to the child, similarly from mother to the child. So here as they receive the characters from both the parents, there are large scope for variation. As they receive the characteristics or the features or the chromosomes from both the parents, they have the large scope for variation. Sometimes you may feel that you may have some characters that is similar to your father and some features similar to the mother. Sometimes you may have some features similar to the grandparent, or maybe to the aunt, or maybe to the uncle, if that is your blood relation only have this transmission of characters. So here sometimes you may say that you are just similar to the grandfather, some characters are there, some to the grandmother, or some to your uncle, some to the aunt, etc. It is because they are received the features from different parents. As it comes to you, sometimes you may receive the features of your blood relation, and that may result in what? Variation. If you are just receiving the characters from the father and just from the mother, you know that you will just look half father and half mother. As I told you earlier in the last section, this DNA photocopying is a chemical reaction. DNA copying is a chemical reaction and we cannot trust this reaction as such. It is not at all reliable. So there may be large scope for variation, especially in the case of sexually reproducing organism. So you should understand this variation will not be effective for the individual. If individual only gets the variation, it cannot be advantageous sometimes. But if a group of people, if a group of species, if they receive or if they have variation that help that organism or that species to survive in new environmental condition. So the variation cannot be beneficial for an individual, but it will be beneficial for the group or the species. For example, if I or you, if we have a particular variation, that doesn't mean that we are adapted to any environmental condition. But if it occurs in whole this group of Homo sapiens, then of course that group or that species can survive in all the type of environmental condition. So that is the importance of what? That is the importance of variation. Variation is very, very important, and it is equal to the heredity. That means the characters that are transmitted from the parent to the offspring, that is known as heredity, and the differences that we acquire or we have got, it is known as the variation. Like the heredity, variation is also very important. It helps an organism to survive in new environmental condition. So here from this we could understand the importance of variation and the importance of sexual reproduction also. In the case of asexual reproduction, there is no scope for variation, or after so many decades only we could feel or we could see a slight variation there. But in the case of sexually reproducing organism, there is large scope for variation. Okay. Now we can just move to the next session. You know that the zygote, how the zygote is formed? Sperm plus egg. And what is the product? It is the zygote. So here, after the zygote, it needs a food storage for developing into an embryo. The zygote, as zygote divides so many times, and what is formed? Embryo is formed. The zygote needs to develop into an embryo. It needs what? It needs food. And this food storage can be provided by either sperm or the egg. Either of the sperm or the egg, it should provide what? Food to the developing zygote. And generally or conventionally, we should believe that, or we should understand that this egg, they are having the food storage. They are having the food storage and they are non-motile. And the sperm, they are motile and they do not have what? Food storage. That's it. So here conventionally we believe that, or in almost all the organism, whether it is plant or the animal, the egg is having the food storage that supply the food for the developing zygote. So here sperm, and generally the eggs, they are non-motile. They will be stationary, they will remain in one place and the sperm will come to them. That's it. Whether in the case of plants or in the animals, the eggs, they remain in one place, or the ovum, they remain in one place, and who will come to them? The sperms will come to them, because the sperms, they have the ability to move very fast. But this egg, no, they have the food storage. So they cannot move from one place to another. So we can call them as what? Non-motile. So this is about the sperm and the egg and the fusion zygote, and this is the main step in what? Sexual reproduction. Sperm as well as the egg, they fuse together to form what? Zygote in the case of sexual reproduction. So now we can discuss about sexual reproduction in flowering, sexual reproduction in plants. Sexual reproduction in plants. You know that we have studied about asexual reproduction in different types of plants, isn't it? Majority of the group of plants, they reproduce by means of asexual reproduction. But some of the plants, they reproduce by means of sexual reproduction. And can you tell me the reproductive part of a plant? Yes, absolutely right. It is the flowers. Flowers are the reproductive part of a plant. And when we observe, and before going to that section, first you should understand the structure of the flower. Now we can observe this diagram. See, plants, this flower has got different parts are there. From the bottom section we can start. See the stalk of the flower, it is known as the pedicel. You know the stalk of the flower, it is known as the stalk of the flower, it is known as the pedicel. See, observe it. Stalk of the flower, it is known as the pedicel. Stalk of the flower, it is known as the pedicel. See, this green part, it is known as the sepal. See, this is the green part of the flower. It is the it is the sepal. And the stalk of the flower, where the flower is attached to the plant, that part is known as the pedicel. And the green color part, it is the petal. It is the sepal. This green color part of the flower, it is the sepal. See, these are the sepal. Now we can move on to these three parts. These are the petals of the flower. Just observe, these are the petals. These are the most attractive part of the flower. They are the petals. See, these are the petals. Or it may be red color, it may be green color, it may be white, it may be violet, and different colored petal flowers we can see. So, they are main attractive parts of the flower. They are the petals. Next one, you can see. So now you know about pedicel, stalk, then about the sepal you know, now about the petal you know. Again, two more parts are there. See, just observe it. This middle part, it is the carpel, or otherwise we can call it as what? Pistil. This carpel or pistil, they are the female reproductive. See, this flower, you can see that this is the carpel or the pistil. See, this long red one, that is the carpel or the pistil, and this is the female reproductive part of a flower. This carpel or pistil, they are the female reproductive part of the flower. This middle one, long one, this is known as the female reproductive part of a flower. And you can see here both sides, they are the stamen, they are the male. See, observe this flower carefully. You could see that small structures are there. Can you see it? Small. Only one female structure is there. It is surrounded by numerous male structures are there. Can you see it clearly? Yes. So here you could see that only single female, very important thing, here only we can see only single female structure is there. It is surrounded by numerous male structures. So here observe, this is the single female structure, and all the sides you could see the male structure, and that structure, it is known as the stamen. And this is carpel or pistil is the female reproductive part of a flower, and the stamen, and how many stamens are there? More than one stamen, but a flower it consists of, it has got only one carpel or pistil, that is it, which can be seen in the middle. And from the projections you could see that they are the stamen or the male reproductive part of a flower. This is very, very important for the examination. You may be asked to draw the diagram of a flower, and you are asked to label the parts also. So, you could explain that the stalk of the flower, it is the pedicel, and the green part, this is the sepal, and the attractive part of the flower, it is the petal, and the middle structure, they are known as the carpel or the pistil, and here and only one carpel or pistil in a complete flower. I will say what is a complete flower. In a complete flower, we could see only one carpel or pistil, but it is surrounded by numerous stamens are there. Numerous male structures are there in a single or a complete flower. Now I will say what is meant by complete flower. What is complete flower? This flower is a complete flower. Who can say why this flower is known as a complete flower? Who can say? Yes, this flower, it has got all the parts. Sepal is there, petal is there, female structure, carpel or pistil is there. Along with that, it has got what? Male structures. If all the four main parts are there in the flower, such a flower is known as complete flower. If all the structures are there in a single flower, that means both reproductive structures are there. And this complete flower is otherwise known as what? Bisexual flower. It is known as bisexual flower. Two sexes are seen in a same flower. That means female structure is there as well as male structure is there. Both these structures are seen in a single flower. Then we can call it as what? Complete flower, otherwise bisexual flower. Now can you tell me what is meant by incomplete flower? Tell me what is meant by incomplete flower, or otherwise it can be called as unisexual flower. Incomplete flower or otherwise known as unisexual flower. So in the case of bisexual flower, as I told you, two sexes are there. This example, two sexes are there in the bisexual flower. That means the female structure is there, along with that male structures are also there. So such flower is known as bisexual. In the case of unisexual flower, I have no flower to show you now. But just understand, in the unisexual flower, either of the stamen or the carpel can be seen. Only one sex can be seen in unisexual flower. Some flowers we can say they have only male reproductive structure, that is the stamen. In some flowers we can see what? The female reproductive structure, that is the carpel or the pistil. Clear? So such flower is known as unisexual flower. So now we can move on to the examples of bisexual flower. Example, bisexual flower, hibiscus, then lily, marigold. These are some of the examples of bisexual flowers. And unisexual flower, as I told you, they have only a single sex. That means some flowers are male, that means they have only stamen. That means so many numerous stamens may be there. And some flowers, they only have what? Carpel or the pistil. So here we can see, in the complete flower, we can see only one carpel or pistil, isn't it? But in the case of unisexual flowers, a single flower may have more than one carpel or pistil. Typical example, I should say papaya, watermelon, jackfruit. These are some of the examples of unisexual flowers. Here in the case, watermelon for example, one flower may be female or one flower may be male. The case of papaya, one tree only gives what? One flower. That means one sex. One tree produces flower having only single sex. Only male plant. In the case of papaya, some plants are male and some plants are female in the case of papaya. Clear? So only one sex is there. So can you tell me, we belong to which group? Are we bisexual or unisexual? Who can tell me the answer on that question? Unisexual or bisexual? Yes, we are unisexual. Some are men or some are women, isn't it? But exceptions are there, transgenders. They may have the structure of both female and male. Some external structures may be of male, but internal structures may be of female, or just opposite also. Combination of these two also can be seen in the case of transgenders. But generally, the human beings, we come under which group? Unisexual. A normal human being has got only single sex, either male sex organs or the female sex organs. But these flowers, some are bisexual and some are unisexual. So very easy for you to remember. Bisexual, example, sometimes you may be asked to write. Bisexual flowers are flowers that are having both the sexes. Example, hibiscus, lily, marigold, then mango flower. They all come under which group? So majority of the flowers that we are familiar with, they come under which group? Bisexual. Majority of the flowers that we may see around us. Or when you are asked to say the name of some flowers, rose, another typical example, rose flower, they all are familiar to us, isn't it? They all come under which group? Bisexual. And this unisexual. Majority of these unisexual flowers, they belong to the fruits and vegetables having big sized, large vegetables and fruits. Majority, I don't want to say that all the big fruits and vegetables they have unisexual, but majority of the plant that produces or tree that produces big sized fruit or big size vegetable, they have what? Which type of flower? Unisexual. It is for you to understand. When it comes for the examination, don't get much confused. Unisexual, that is the big fruits flowers. There's papaya, watermelon, jackfruit. Their flowers are unisexual. And bisexual, so many flowers that are seen around us. Hibiscus, you know, the show flower. Then the rose, lily, then you know ixora. They all come under which group? They all come under bisexual flowers. Clear? So unisexual and bisexual. So here next we can move on to the, I want to discuss about the main structure or the reproductive structures of the flower. Main two reproductive structures of the flower I want to discuss now. You know that main structure, that is the stamen. Main structure, that is the stamen, and we can just see that stamen, it has got an elongated structure, and this elongated structure, it is known as the filament, and this structure, it is known as the anther. This is the filament and this is the anther. This is the structure of the stamen. It can be asked for the examination. See, this is the, just observe this flower very carefully, and this one, this is the stalk-like structure is there, and that is known as the filament, and the topmost portion is known as the anther. Just observe this flower very carefully. Can you see it? Here you could see that yellow powder. Can you see that? Yellow powdery substance. When we touch the flower, especially the main flower, we could see that yellow powder substance are there, and that yellow powder is produced in the anther, and that yellow powder is known as the pollen grain. This yellow powdery substance that are seen in the flower, it is known as the pollen grain. Clear? And it is produced by the upper bilobe structure known as anther. Inside the anther, we could see 4 pollen sacs are there. Inside the anther, we could see pollen sacs are there. Inside the pollen sacs, they produce what? These pollen grains are produced by the pollen sac. Clear? So this is the stamen, and a bisexual flower, it consists of numerous stamen, and stamen has got mainly 2 parts. This is a slender elongated part is known as the filament, and upper bilobe structure, it is known as the anther. Inside the anther, what is produced? This yellow color substance known as what? Pollen grain is produced there. Now we can move on to the female structure, that is the carpel or the pistil. See, in the middle structure you have very clearly seen it, isn't it? This is the female structure. This is the female structure, reproductive structure of the flower, and this top portion, it is known as the stigma. This is the style, and this portion is known as the ovary, and inside the ovary we could see the numerous ovules are there inside the ovaries. So this is the structure of female reproductive structure, or otherwise known as carpel or pistil. It has got an uppermost structure known as the stigma, and the part that connect the stigma and the ovary, it is known as the style, and the lower, bulged structure, it is known as the ovary. Inside the ovary we can see the ovule. Clear? This is the female reproductive structure, and this is the male reproductive structure. So when we discussed about this female structure, the stigma is very sticky. The stigma part, it is very sticky. Can you say why? Why this stigma part is very sticky? This is very sticky. This stigma part is very sticky. For what? To receive the pollen grain. To receive the pollen grain, the stigma part, this pollen grain is there, and you just observe this is the stigma. See, this part is the stigma, and when we touch the tip of the stigma, see, it's a tip, it is sticky. Can you see why it is sticky? To receive the pollen grains from where? From the anther. And here the tip of this is the anther, and here numerous pollen grains are produced. These pollen grains it stick to the stigma. This is because for sticking only the stigma is very sticky to receive the pollen grains. And can you tell me what are this process called? The transfer of pollen grains, from anther to the stigma, and that process is known as, tell me what is that? You have studied in the lower classes. Pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther. The transfer of pollen grains, you know this yellow color powder, transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma, and this process is known as what? Pollination. What is pollination? Transfer of, this question can be asked. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma, and that process is known as pollination. There are two types of pollination. There are mainly two types of pollination. There are mainly two types of pollination. First one is the self-pollination. Second one is the cross-pollination. Self-pollination and second one is the cross-pollination. Two types are there. Who can tell me what is the difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination? Pollination, you all know, transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma. If it happens in a same flower, if the transfer of pollen grains takes place in the same flower, that is anther of the, in this, if it happens the single flower, that process is known as self-pollination. If it is in a, if the transfer of pollen grains, if the transfer of pollen grains occur in a single flower, it is known as self-pollination. So, there is no need of any external agent, nothing is needed. In a single flower, the pollination takes place, and such pollination is known as self-pollination. Then tell me what is meant by cross-pollination? If the transfer between different flower of the same plant, different flower of the same plant, or the flower of the different plant that belong to same species, different plant that belong to same species. That is cross-pollination, transfer of pollen grains from anther of a flower between different flower of, this is a single flower, isn't it? If it happens between another flower of the same plant, we can call it as what? Cross-pollination. If it is, for example, hibiscus, if it occurs in the same flower, then we can call it as what? Self-pollination. If it occurs between another flower of the same hibiscus plant, that is also cross-pollination. If another hibiscus plant is there, if the pollination is between two flowers of the different plant, that is also known as what? Cross-pollination. Self means what? It is between the same flower of the same plant, then we can call it as self-pollination. If it is between two flowers of the same plant, or if it is between another flower of the another plant, then we can call it as what? Cross-pollination. That can be also asked for the examination. What is pollination? Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma is known as pollination. Two types of pollinations are there: self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination, it is between the stigma and anther of the same flower. What is cross? It is between the another flower of the same plant or another flower of the different plant or different flower. It is known as the cross pollination. Is it clear? Now we can just discuss about the main 4 parts of the flower. You know, now it is clear about the function of the style and the stigma. Style, stigma, ovary, filament and the anther. That is the function of reproductive structures. You already know it, isn't it? Reproductive structures, you already know it. Then you want to know pedicel. You know the part that is attached to the plant, that is known as the pedicel. And now we can first move on to the function of the sepal. In the examination, you may be asked to draw the structure of the flower, label the part and asked to write the function of the main 4 parts. Main 4 part, you know, sepal, petal, then what? Stamen and the pistil. These are the main 4 parts. Can you tell me what's the function of the sepal? Sepal is the green part of the flower. Just observe this. Sepal, it is the green part of the flower. And it protects the main function. See, can you see the flower here? It's a bud, right? And you can see only the green color here. You can see the green color. And sepal, it protects. The main function of sepal protects the flower in the bud condition. In the bud condition, that's the main function of the sepal. Very, very important. Sepal, it covers the flower till the flower blossoms or blooms. It is covered by whom? Sepal. See, second step, can you see? Yes, it is moving to both sides, right? Can you see that? Here the sepal is there, but it is moving to both sides. And here you can see the flower, and gradually you know that the flowers, they can bloom and become a, that time the sepal will move to both sides. It will not go, the sepal will move to both sides. And the main function of sepal is to protect the flower in the bud condition. Protect from the external agents, insects, etc. etc. The sepal protect it. So that's the sepal is always green in color, very, very important. Whatever may be the color of the petal, the sepal is always in which color? Green color. It protects the flower in the bud condition. Then tell me, what is the function of the petal? What is the function of the petal? It's the most attractive part of the flower, isn't it? It's the most attractive part. Beautiful white, as I told you, white, red, green, different colored flowers are there. Can you tell me the main function of the flowers? Yes, it attracts the insects for pollination. Petal, it attracts the insects for pollination. It attracts the insects for pollination. Main function of petal, it is the most attractive part of the flower and it protects the, it attracts the insects for pollination. That is about the petal. See? Okay. Then stamen, it is the male reproductive part and pistil, it is the female reproductive structure. And the stamen, it is otherwise can be called as androecium. And the female, it is known as the gynoecium. Just to make you understand, androecium and gynoecium. Androecium, it is the male reproductive part of the flower, and gynoecium, it is the female reproductive part of a flower. So male part, it is the androecium. Stamen is otherwise known as the androecium, and the pistil is otherwise known as the gynoecium. So I would like to say a tip to remember the stamen and the pistil. Sometimes you may get confused which part is the male structure and which part is the female structure. So here in the stamen you could see the men is there, isn't it? M-E-N. So that means men is the male. Another is a pistil. So of course it is the female. Clear? Don't forget that. Stamen, men is there, so it is the male structure, and pistil, no men is there, so it is the female structure. Clear? So this is about the structure and function of the flower. Different parts are there, pedicel, sepal, petal, stamen, carpel and pistil. Sepal, it protects the flower in the bud condition, it is always green in color. Petal, it is the most attractive part of the flower, it has the instrument for pollination. Stamen, it is the male reproductive part, and the carpel or pistil, it is the female reproductive part. So now you are going to watch a video explaining about the structure of the flower. So all the best, my dear children, for the examination. Write well, study properly. If any doubt is there, you are free to ask me through WhatsApp. So be safe, stay home. Until we see in the next class, it's bye from me. Bye. Thank you.
Till now, we have discussed and learnt the different types of asexual reproduction in plants. But is there any other method of reproduction adopted by plants? Yes, there is. We know that some plants are capable of sexual reproduction as well. Do plants possess any special features for this? Yes, they do. Plants possess flowers. Flowers are the reproductive structure of the plant. In a flower, the male sex organ is called the stamen and the female sex organ is called the pistil. But how does this process of sexual reproduction occur? Let's try and understand it. But before that, let's have a look at the typical structure of a flower. It appears somewhat like this. A flower has mainly two components. Now, what do we mean by this? Every flower is mainly composed of two parts. They are the essential and the non-essential parts. Do we know what these are? The parts of a flower, such as the stamen and the pistil, which are the reproductive parts, are the essential parts. Their function says it all. These are essential because they are directly involved in the process of reproduction. Do we mean that if these structures are not present, then a plant will not be able to reproduce? Yes, that's absolutely correct. So how will the plant be able to reproduce if the gamete-producing structures are not present? And what are the other parts then? Floral parts such as the petals and sepals are the next in our list, and they are the non-essential parts of a flower. These floral parts do not take part in the process of reproduction directly and are therefore called the non-essential parts. Now let's discuss each part in detail. To begin with, we have the stamen, which is the male part. What does the stamen look like? If we zoom in the structure, it looks like this. Stamen has two distinct parts, the anther and the filament. Do you think that these structures have specific functions to perform? Yes, as a matter of fact, they do. The part called the anther bears minute round bodies called pollen grains which play an active role in reproduction. There is a specific process by which pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the female part of the same or different flower. Now, what is that part called? For that, we need to focus onto our next floral part, the pistil, which is the female part. The pistil has three distinct subparts. And what are these subparts? They are the stigma, style, and the ovary. Do these structures have specific functions? Yes, they do. The part called stigma is the landing place for the pollen. And what exactly do we mean by this? Pollen from the male part, the anther, land on the stigma and germinate further. This process is what we call pollination in plants. Next comes the style, which is a slender stalk that holds up the stigma in position and connects it with the ovary. What about the ovary then? It is the swollen basal part of the pistil which contains the ovules. But what are ovules and what is their function? Ovules are the female gametes that get fertilized and form the embryo. Is this process really so simple? Well, it's not as simple as it seems. The process is quite complicated. This was just an overview.